The vibe. So basically we go in, we diagnose, we get the shit out and the caca out, and then and then we send people on their way. We are the brain and I don't want to sound too, like, ooh, we're so great. But like we're doing like the brain and the lung stuff. So you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to think about breathing.
You realize now everyone listening is now noticing they are actually breathing. We don't think about breathing until someone says, think about breathing, and suddenly it becomes a conscious effort.
You're an outlier in this sense. And maybe that's why your life sucks. It can't be greater than the sum of its parts. Ooh, that's a good one. Drop the mic. Okay, so yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Shaundai Person. I'm a senior software engineer at Netflix on the productivity engineering team, which we'll talk a bit about. Outside of work, I am also a mother of an amazing 7-year-old, and I do conference speaking. You might know me from conference speaking, but I've actually decided to take a step back this year and not do as much speaking and put more of my efforts into content creation, YouTube videos, TikTok videos, and things like that. So slow start, but you'll be seeing a lot more videos very soon.
So Shaundai, absolutely fantastic to have you here. As I've mentioned to you when we were chatting earlier, been a huge fan, been following you for a while. Loving the things you do from a work perspective and the stuff you do from a personal perspective. Just on a slightly personal note, you posted a picture of some pottery that you were doing with your kid, where you had like a little fox, and then there's another animal. I can't remember what it was, but all painted up. It was a cat. That's it.
Yeah,
I have done the same fox with my kid years ago. So there's a pottery place near me called Paintaway that has all the racks of those different pottery things, and you get all the paints and you paint it up, and then they bake it, and then you go and pick it up a few days later. We've got a few of those dotted around the house, and yes, I have done that same fox.
That is so funny. The fox, it just like stuck out to me. I was like, this thing is so cute. So I did the fox and my son did the little cat, but it was my niece's birthday party. So my niece and my son are the same age. They're just a month apart, which is amazing. And we were at her birthday party and everybody got to paint something, and he chose like a he turned it into a spotted cat, and my fox, that was very elegant. And the colors are going to go into the office that I'm renovating downstairs in the basement, and it's going to be like beachy, corally vibes. So I'm really excited about that. Like the peace, the nature, the ambiance, the aesthetic is what they say. The kids say on TikTok. The
vibe. Okay, that sounds really cool. I do hope if that's your office, hopefully you'll be recording from there, so for chance for us all to see that, because that sounds cool. So another thing I have seen of yours on social media, which I want to dig into, is you described where you work as a colonoscopy org, and that I thought that was hilarious. Can you explain? Obviously you're not there at Netflix with a camera. So what does that mean to you? What is it that you do that is likened to giving someone a colonoscopy?
Yeah. And though I am kind of the queen of analogies, I can't take the credit for this analogy. This actually came from my director in my interview with Netflix. So I was interviewing with her, and I was asking her about this org that I was potentially going to be joining, this productivity org. And she described us as the colonoscopy org. She said that we do the stuff that nobody wants to do, but it's stuff that you have to do. So basically we go in, we diagnose, we get the shit out, and sorry if we can't swear, but we get the caca out, and then and then we send people on their way. So I love that analogy. It stuck with me. When I did my thank you email to her, I made sure that I included the reference of the colonoscopy org. But yeah, we're very much the colonoscopers, the doctors who are doing all the invasive things with your software apps at Netflix.
So we think about Netflix. Obviously, it's a massive organization. You don't get to dominate, 6% of the internet bandwidth or whatever the number is, without having a massive amount of engineering. And as we are doing engineering, technical debt builds up. You build a system, you have a need, you then maybe this system doesn't talk right to this system because you have new standards. So I guess your goal really as an organization is to look across everything, and obviously a massive, massive amount of software that's been built, and then work out how do we make this better. I mean, how much software do you actually deal with on a day-to-day basis? How big is the problem that you're trying to? How much shit are you trying to scrape out here?
A lot. So we have hundreds of thousands of pieces of software, and that could be repos, load balancers, clusters, deployable apps, things like that. So all of those are considered software entities. The tool that my team specifically works on, so there is like a larger org. There's the platform org, and different parts of that org oversee different aspects of our software and manage things that are considered paved path. And I don't know if everybody's familiar with the term paved path because it was new to me before I came to Netflix. But paved path is just basically like if you imagine yourself out in the world, you could go down a bumpy trail or like a cobblestone walkway, or you could take the paved path, which is just like a cement, concrete, easy way of walking, right? So, or getting from point A to point B. So we have certain software that we support or certain tools that we support as the platform team or as Netflix as an org. Like taking a step back, Netflix doesn't put a hard stance on any type of tooling or anything like that. They're not like, okay, everybody has to use this one thing. Really, it's up to the team to decide these are the problems that we have, and this is the best tool for the job. And to kind of make the case. And then we all kind of agree as a team that this is the way forward. So people could be using from org to org, from team to team, you could be using different libraries or different, like completely different tools, right? But there are certain tools that as an org, we've decided are considered paved path. Like, okay, if you're going to build a front end app, we would want you to use like, let's say React, right? JavaScript, obviously you would have to use for front end. So that's our paved path. So these are the things that we will support. So when it comes to our team, the tool that we're building is kind of like a developer portal that allows you to manage the software design lifecycle of your software and apps. So remember, I said like hundreds of thousands of apps or software entities. And there's a lot of stuff that's involved with managing that software design lifecycle that developers don't want to touch, that I don't want to touch. Like it's not fun, like monitoring deployments, managing alerts. If something has gone down way at the other side of the company, it might be a result of something that I did on my side, but how do I know, like, how do I know all of the steps that happen? Like, how do I know the connection between these two pieces of software? I really just want to get in my day. I just want to open VS Code and I just want to start coding. So what our tool does is it helps you to debug, identify alerts and areas where your software hygiene is not, it's not great. It could be improved. Just ordinary maintenance things like, Dependabot will do where it just like alerts you on, okay, there's a security vulnerability. Here's something that you should be aware of. And then allows you to manage that in one central place. So again, this is where we're the colonoscopy. It's like something you have to do, but something that you don't really want to do. But it's like we're all healthier because of it. And now, we can as you mentioned, like a huge amount of the internet, a huge company, we want to make sure that our products are high quality. We want to make, it's gotta be the good stuff, the top quality stuff. So all of the stuff that you hate to do when it comes to managing software and lots of software is what we handle. And we try to make it as easy as possible so that the other Netflix engineers and ourselves are as productive as possible. We can just focus on logic and code and meetings and things like that. all the stuff that you just think of when you think of engineering.
Okay, so just if you excuse my probably terrible way of rephrasing that. If you think about as a Netflix customer, I go onto Netflix app and I say, right, I want to watch this thing. Yeah, I press play to put it on. The person who's built the team that's built that whole flow where it starts playing the video, they don't want to be building observability, monitoring, alerting, because their core goal is to deliver that experience of I press play and I get to watch Witcher or whatever it is, and so they can kind of forget about that side of the ecosystem, because if they had to build that monitoring, observability, alerting, it would be exactly the same as every other application that's being built across Netflix. So rather than a team of engineers saying, you know what, I'm going to reinvent the wheel, I'm going to build exactly the same thing again, they literally go to your team and just take that piece off the shelf, stick it in, and then because everyone's using that same off the shelf piece, it all feeds into the same place, so that you can have that single pane of glass view across Netflix as a whole. And then you know that everything's feeding into that, so you don't have to have 1,000 different dashboards. You don't have to have that kind of mission control where you have this screen is monitoring this part of the system, this screen's this part, because they're all disconnected, disparate systems. You can have this singular view across everything because everybody does it the same way. You don't have that, I'm going to solve it my way because I think I'm better, and no one can read the data. You don't have that, I'm not going to do it because it's hard.
Yep.
It's just like, it's, it's probably not one line of code, but you kind of almost want to get to that point where everybody puts this stuff in because you have made it so easy
yeah
that it just works.
Yeah, you've got it like almost exactly. There's like little those are really great synopsis of everything that I said. But yeah, that's pretty much how it works. And so we rather than it being a tool that they kind of grab, though, I guess is the only distinction. Rather than it being a tool that they grab, this is just like a catalog. This is where everything like lives. And so I can go in and I can be like, oh, well, how does my app compare to other people's apps at the company? Or how is this going to, like, something is down and I need to check what's going on. So I can just open it up in the instant view. The default view is going to be my apps. And so I can just see all the things that I need to see to solve that problem. And it's a bunch of stuff that I don't have to worry about. So things are just operating. It's kind of like, and I just thought of this analogy just now, but it's like we are the brain and I don't want to sound too, like, ooh, we're so great. But like we're doing like the brain and the lung stuff. So you don't have to worry about it. It's like you can move on and you can do all of these different things with your body. Now, this frees you up to do all these great things with your body because you don't have to think about thinking. You don't have to think about breathing. You don't have to think about like making your heart beat. We're going to take care of that for you. If something goes wrong, you can go to the doctor and you can figure out what's wrong with your heart. But we're like that central place where you can go and just be like, oh, there is something wrong with the heart. Okay, now I know where to go with that so I can get it fixed.
You realize now everyone listening is now noticing they are actually breathing. We don't think about breathing until someone says think about breathing, and suddenly it becomes a conscious effort.
Right.
Okay, so it's in some ways you're like that muscle memory, aren't you? You're like that. These are the intrinsic bits you need, and then I guess as part of the kind of the colonoscopy, the sticking the camera in there, you're looking at other applications that don't necessarily follow these best practices, that don't have the same features.
Yep.
And then you're kind of giving that, as you say, it's all about the software design lifecycle. It's all about that. How do we express the right practices that you should be following, and how do we help you adhere to those practices?
That's right. Yeah. So we can, that gives us the ability to kind of benchmark on certain things and say like, you're an outlier in this sense. And maybe that's why your life sucks, or maybe that's why this thing keeps failing. Or we recommend for an app that has these specific components, like using these libraries, these tools, and this bundler, we recommend that you use this other thing, or you get on board with this other thing or something. So we can provide recommendations, or we can say, all right, this looks stale, like your pull request looks stale, like any aspect of the software design lifecycle, like we're able to help you to get deeper insights into that. And so it also kind of creates I don't want to say community in the sense that all of us are sitting around some fire and just like talking about deployments, but it gives you this sense of that like support. Like I'm not alone when I'm building this one thing. There are other teams that are doing something similar, so I can ask them for help, or there's other teams that should be involved in understanding the reason for this going wrong or going right, and we're all better for that, because now we're not all everybody starting from scratch doing things greenfields. We all get to start from a place of like, okay, this is the historical knowledge about this, or this is the paved path for that, and you can use that as foundations to innovate. Now instead of thinking of the very or not granular, but like the low level parts of what makes a piece of software durable and maintainable, now I get to extract all that away because the platform team is working on that, and I'm free to innovate. I'm free to think of new things.
I feel like the important part there really is this kind of community idea. This kind of you're bringing together people, because a phrase I often like to use is software development is a team sport. It's not about the one engineer sitting in the corner tapping away doing the thing. It is a team sport. We are greater as a team. The way you 10x an engineer is not by having a 10x engineer, is by having a group of engineers together who can lift each other up and support each other and kind of share those skills and experience. And what you're talking about sounds very much like you are part of a wider community across the whole of Netflix that is devoted to delivering better software. And so people have kind of got that community to go to when they have questions. They've got that support in place, and they kind of have this sense of belonging that together we can deliver this much greater piece of software than I could do on my own. It's the old African proverb, isn't it? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. You are that going together. You are that tribe of people. You are that community, that group, that koshery, whatever word you want to use. It's that ability to, I've got this support network in place that can help me with everything I do. So kind of, I guess the human aspect is one of the most important parts. And I can imagine that the team you're on, you need to have the right kind of people in terms of the ability to communicate, in terms of the ability to be friendly, be supportive. It's not going back to the colonoscopy idea. It's not a team for an arsehole, is it really? It's a team for people who are going to be supportive. So how much of your work really is the human side of it rather than technology side?
So much. And I'm so glad that it is, because I love coding. I really do. And it's what I do to relax, but I'm a human, and I'm coding and I'm building software for other humans with other humans. And I love that. I really love the fact that there are humans using the tool. And when I was interviewing with my hiring manager, so not the director, not the colonoscopy originator of the analogy, I was mentioning my previous career. So I switched careers in 2020, and previously I was in sales, which is a career built off of soft skills. The premium soft skill is communication, and I refined those skills. I didn't think of myself as a good communicator when I first started, but communication is always something that's important, no matter what you're doing. And I do remember that. Okay, as a salesperson, I was selling software. So as a salesperson, you're the first line of contact when a customer has an issue. And you're also the first line of contact when things are going well. You're the person that they're going to come to buy more licenses. You're also the person who's going to lose that sale, also lose that commission if the product isn't matching up with what the competitors are doing, or what the customer's expectations are. So you're taking this feedback, and where does it go? You bring it to maybe your manager, who brings it to the customer success team, who brings it to the customer support team, who brings it to product, who brings it to the engineering manager, who brings it to the engineers. who put it on the backlog. And then they're like, you know what? It's not even that important. Like, why do we care? And us in sales are like, the company is about to lay off everybody because nobody is doing the things that the customers want them to do. So nobody's going to pay us any money. And the engineers don't even, like, they have no concept. And they're like, we can't hear you because we don't talk to the customers. And I'm like, it is my mission to be more connected to the customer than other engineers that I've seen, because it's critically important to be able to have that feedback loop. Like, it makes no sense for you to spend months and months iterating, designing, building PRDs for products that you haven't actually validated with your customer. And also, it makes no sense that our priorities are completely different from our stakeholders and our customers. Like, we should be aligned. We should be working in lockstep, especially when it comes specifically to my org. My customers are internal. So literally, if I want feedback, all I have to do is send a Slack message. And it's not like I have to set up a meeting. It's not like I have to put like a focus group together or anything like that. They're right here. So I am constantly asking for feedback, and people are challenging me. And this is more of it's not just a me thing, which I think it's important for every engineer to feel like this. But why I really value working at Netflix is because it's a general value. Like, it's one of the things that is listed. We have why did I forget the name of it? There's a doc online that lists all of our values, right? It's a public thing. But one of the values that we have is, or one of the core tenets is like very important here, is to farm for dissent. And so we don't make decisions in a silo. We will work to solve problems, and we'll use our great brains to come up with solutions. But we're not just going to go ahead and implement that solution before we farm for dissent. So we're asking for feedback from other colleagues. We're asking for feedback from our customers, actually looking for the devil's advocates and the negative and the naysayers and the haters and all of that stuff, because no, like, we're much more, like you said, we can go much further when we're together. So it's a constant thing. And you will actually get I'm not going to use the word, but like, you could lose your job for being too just like down by yourself and not involving other people in it, because we really see a lot of value in that level of community, and it makes the product better. So back to the point of like innovation and working together, there is so much that you can learn just from having a conversation with somebody, or just from introducing something to somebody. And one frame of mind might be that, okay, I want to look like a 10x engineer by coming up with the idea by myself and executing it by myself and getting all the credit for it. It doesn't really fly here. The frame of reference that I hope I can introduce people to if they haven't heard of it, or convince people to adopt if they've heard of it and not adopted it yet, is to adopt that same mindset of farming for dissent, and thinking about how I can make this idea more comprehensive by involving other people. Like, people can help you to identify gaps in what you're doing. They can use their own experience because they have different experiences than you. They can involve their experience and help to highlight different ways that you can improve things, introduce you to new patterns, all different kinds of things. But there's never been a time where I've like introduced something to somebody and they disagreed with it. And just because it's like everybody's in good, everybody they give their dissent in good faith, I guess, or we assume good faith when people give their dissent, but people don't give it and then they're like, oh, you're stupid because you didn't know this before I said it. It's more like, we just have this natural healthy human cadence of working together, giving feedback, and then we consider the feedback a gift, and it makes us all better for it. Like, I'm learning things as I'm giving you feedback. I'm learning things as you're giving me feedback, and it goes on and on. So we just like build off of each other and innovate in that way with like my idea, your idea, my idea, your idea, and then we turn into just magic millions of dollars.
I like that. My idea, your idea, my idea, your idea. Magic, millions of dollars. I love that.
Profit.
Yeah, it's such a true thing in life because we all have our thoughts, opinions, and views, but we're not necessarily the experts. And sometimes you need external expertise, but also sometimes you need those off the wall ideas where someone say, well, why don't we do this? And so having that constant, not quite negative feedback, but that constant dissent idea of, I don't like that because of this, allows you to kind of lift up together. I mean, one thing I try personally to be very conscious of is if I'm giving feedback on something, I'm very much either this is based on professional experience or this is opinion. I'll be very clear and say my personal opinion is this, and this is just my personal opinion. I was in a meeting the other day where I was saying my personal opinion is I don't like the color scheme of this. I find it I like this, but this is my personal opinion. And I think it's very important that we can have these conversations. We can say, I think you can do better by this, this, and this, and then express that in an open and honest way that this is based off experience because I've done this, this, and this, or this is based off personal opinion because that's my personal opinion. And, it doesn't matter whether you agree with it or not. It's just my thoughts. But have that grown-up conversation, for want of a better expression, and we use that to lift us all up. And I love the fact that that's what Netflix does as a whole, is we get that wisdom of the crowds, and we want people to come together. I think it's very important that all organizations have this concept of it's not about measuring the individual on what you do by yourself. It's you measure the success of everyone coming together. I used to work for Microsoft, for example, and in their reviews, they have this kind of circles of what did you do? How did you leverage the work of others? And then how did other people leverage the work of you, and kind of have this Venn diagram measure over that. And then when you're filling in your twice a year, your connects, as they call it, you actually have to put that down. How did I take someone else's work and improve upon it? How did I provide the foundation that someone else can build upon? So cool. And if you're not doing that, if it's just you by yourself, sorry, you can kiss your bonus goodbye. We're gonna rate you down. So I think it's fantastic that Netflix have kind of got this idea of you are a team, and it's important that you have this. It's in the core values that you come together as a team.
Yeah. And right. And I think you kind of illuminated something for me too. It really is important to ingrain it in the culture. That just reminds me, the name of the doc is the culture memo. So I just had a brain fog for a second. Yeah. So that's where you can find more about that. But yeah, it's important when you're at an org to have it ingrained in the culture, because I know that there are orgs that I've been at where that's not part of the culture, and actually it's a negative thing to give the feedback. And so that's where a lot of the stereotypes come from, where I wouldn't feel safe if I brought up a negative opinion or a dissenting opinion. So it's important for it to come from the higher ups and them to say, okay, in order for me to consider you to be effective at your job, or this is actually a part of the job description, I need you to be working collaboratively with other people in this way. I need you to be farming for dissent. I need you to be improving on other people's ideas. But I know not everybody's in that situation. Some people come from really toxic work environments, and it's, you just got to kind of keep your head down, do your work, and it's kind of dog eat dog. I wouldn't want to work for a company like that.
Yeah, I get you. I used to work in banking, in the technology side of banking. So yeah,
a
lot about toxic environments.
You got it.
So just kind of changing direction a bit. I know we've been talking a lot about humans, but obviously this is an AI-focused podcast. So a lot of what you've been talking about is the human aspect of solving problems and the human aspect of boosting productivity by bringing those people together. How does AI fit into this world? We talk about AI as the way to make you a 10x engineer, to make you more productive, but does it help with what you're doing in terms of bringing humans together?
It does. And we've leaned into AI as a company. in the sense that like we understand that AI can make you more productive as an engineer. And actually, I wish my colleague and friend, Jasmine, she is our AI guru in the platform org. But I'm so proud of her. And she recently took on this role where she is adding in and enhancing AI within the productivity org. So she can speak more to how that works. But yeah, I to answer your question directly, we are using AI for productivity, and there are ways. Did you ask about like the human aspect of it too, like how?
Yeah, it's just obviously the big focus, the big thing you've just been talking about is the idea that your productivity as a company is driven by that human connection,
Yeah,
and obviously AI in some ways can replace that. You know, I
yeah,
can come to you and say, "How should I do this observability?" Or I could go to my AI and say, "How do I do this observability?" So, in
yeah.
what ways is AI boosting the engineer by giving the opportunity to jump in and get that help? But also, is there any negatives of it that they're relying on the AI rather than on the
Mm.
humans?
So okay, I'm not as scared about AI. Maybe part of it is just because I'm an optimist by default, but I'm not as scared about the AI stealing all of our jobs, or the AI is just like it's doing too much, because I grew up when, and I don't know if I grew up in these times or if it was just my parents being dinosaurs, but like we had a rotary phone. We had the first computer that I used had C prompts, and I knew how to do C prompts as a 5-year old, to get my little reading game going, my little Oregon Trail and stuff like that. And so I grew up before cell phones, obviously. So, and at every stage, people are like, "Oh my god, things are just like it's getting too crazy. Technology is so nuts." And then Y2K, the world's gonna end, and it was just not, like it was such a wild time. And I'm like, none of that. I don't know. Like none of it made anything worse. I mean, you could always find a negative spin to literally anything, but again, the optimist in me is like, it's good. I feel like it's the analogy that I'm using, I guess, is kind of meta, because it's the same thing as what we do as an org. Like we are building this platform for people to be freer to innovate. Not sure if you're familiar with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Mhm.
but
Yep.
yeah, so the psychology of it, this is an explanation if folks are listening and they haven't heard of it yet, but look it up. So there's a pyramid. At the bottom of the pyramid, where it's the fattest part of the triangle, are your basic needs. You have like food, water, sleep. You need that to live. And then as you get higher and higher up the pyramid, the top is self actualization, where you're like, this is the supreme, where you're thinking, you're creating, you're innovating, like you're doing things that not everybody can do, but you can't work your way up to the next levels in the pyramid until you've satisfied the needs at the lower levels. If I'm fighting for food, I can't think about how to be a creative poet. You know what I mean? So I got to satisfy those needs first. So what we're doing as a platform org is we're taking care of all of that behind the scenes stuff so that you can do the next thing. You can code, and then the next thing is like I can innovate with my code. And so I feel like AI is kind of one of those lower levels, or it's turning into something where it's like one of the lower levels on that pyramid, so to speak, where it's abstracting a lot of the stuff that is unnecessary and just takes too much time. And if you want to feel all nostalgic, you can go back and do it, but like why do it? Like why do long division by hand when you can use a calculator? You know, why make a list of recipe options for the night when I can just ask ChatGTP to make a list of recipes for me? It's just like, it's just going to get me there, and I'm going to be the person who makes the recipe. AI isn't going to come in my kitchen. AI is not going to buy the groceries. It's not going to pay the bills. It's not going to chop up the carrots and the onions. And it's not going to feed my kid.
If only it could.
I know, right? Like I wish, maybe someday. But honestly, we're like we're way far from that. And at that time, same as like with your phone or your calculator or your um any of the scary technology things, like you will have the option about how much you want to adopt it. It's not like some AI bot is just going to come in at the end of the week and take over your life. Like we still have choices. So all that to say, I'm not super scared about AI. I'm embracing AI because I'm like, this is something that is going to make my personal life easier and my work life easier. So when it comes to coding, I will use like Copilot to help me to like I know how to code, and I know that I can do it because I've done it and I did it before AI was so prevalent in the world, before Copilot was like a mainstream thing. But if I have a brain fart, rather than using Stack Overflow, which is what I used to use, rather than using Google, I'll go to Chat GTP first or Copilot first and be like, hey, why am I getting this error? What does this error mean? So I will do that. And it just saves me a step. I was going to Google it anyway. So like, I don't know. It's the same thing. It's just like a different thing. When it comes to my home life, same exact, like I will look up recipes. Sometimes, honestly, if I'm having a bad day, I'm like, girl, am I the wrong one or is he the wrong one? And then we'll go back and forth like therapists. So so yeah, I think it's a great thing. I think it's and it's a thing that again allows me more time now to get to those higher levels in the hierarchy of needs. So now rather than spinning my wheels looking for the exact Stack Overflow issue that can help me, I get instant context about or sorry, not instant context. I get instant answer that is in the context that I'm working in, right? Because I've given Copilot that context, and I get an answer that's relevant to my issue, solves the issue. If it doesn't, then I can just ask it again, or I can try something else because I already have the brain that knows how to use the code. So like I'm like, that's like 80% right. I'll, rework it and I'll add it in. But yeah, and then it frees up time so that I can go and think of other things. So now I'm like, I'm an even better engineer because I can go off and innovate, or I can go to the higher levels. One other thing that I think is important is that AI, especially when it comes to development, you still have to understand the fundamentals of things. You still have to understand how the code works. You can't just be like, I don't know. And I've heard stories about, I heard it from, there's a guy coming to replace my Windows this past weekend, and he was telling me about some kid who built an entire app just using ChatGTP, and he sold it for 10 million. Yeah, I don't know if it's true, and it's just a window guy. I don't know, but it's like this. The stuff that you're still going to need humans regardless. Like you'll need humans to take that and put it together. You're going to need humans to apply that to something. Like AI is not going to be the customer, so you still need that customer feedback. And when, if this is a true story, when he sold the app for $10 million, the reason isn't because AI was like, oh, I have $10 million and I need this. It's like a human has $10 million or a company and they need it for something. The reason why it's valuable is because there's the human aspect of it. The human determined that it was valuable. So, yeah, engineers aren't going anywhere, and I'm all for embracing it. So,
Awesome. So when we think about the Shaundai hierarchy of needs here, yeah, you've kind of got that good platform base at the bottom, which is your how do we help engineers with their software developer life cycle. We then have
uh-huh.
IDEs. We then have kind of AIs
Mhm.
on top of that, and then we can get
That's
that
right.
innovation. So we think about the different. It's just one of those many tools we have in those layers that allow us that top level.
Mhm.
Instead of self-actualization, I guess it's
Yeah.
innovation in terms of
Mhm.
engineering. So it's just another tool in your box. And I think it's really interesting that you kind of kept hammering home that point about you have to know how to code. And this is something I think we're seeing a lot mainly in anecdotes across the internet, but we're getting, I've got these junior engineers and they just throw the problem at ChatGPT and they come back and here's the code and they don't actually understand it. And I guess that's the worry that these tools are going to just generate code and it may or may not work. But the second we as humans have to go into that code, the whole thing breaks down. And I guess just thinking about the work that you do, if an engineer at Netflix was to use Cursor, Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever, to build an application, it's not necessarily going to follow your best practices. It's not going to necessarily use the right tools. It's not going to have the right observability built in, because the AI doesn't know that this is how we build things at Netflix. You need that human there to do it. And then in terms of the tools they're building, the AI is going to go, yes, you should do this, 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 this. And they release it. And the actual end user is going to go,
right.
What is this? I don't know what this is because you haven't spoken to me. So it's that. So I guess going back to that pyramid, really that real base of that pyramid is talking, is the ability to speak to a customer. Because without that communication that defines what it is we need to do, we don't need the productivity tools, the IDE, the AI, and the innovation. All of that falls down. It's because you don't know what you're building. It's that ability to create poetry makes no sense if you can't eat, if you can't breathe, you can't sleep. The ability to innovate code makes no sense if you don't know what it is that you need to innovate in the first place.
If you don't understand the user. This makes me, I feel like after this call, I'm going to put an actual hierarchy together, because this is very interesting to me. But yeah, exactly. And okay, so another thing that, or this is kind of related to it, but we've been talking a lot about the human aspect of things. I in my opinion, having great soft skills and being able to articulate them in a way that's relevant to the role, and to be able to display them in a way that's relevant to the role, is way more important than the code itself. I think only probably 20-25% of what I actually do during the day is coding. And I wish it was more, but most of my time is making decisions, helping to other people to make decisions, helping to give feedback, get feedback on things, writing up docs, being in meetings where we're exploring things and deciding what's going to be a priority. And all of that is in the lens of what's important to the user, and really what's important to the company, because it's what's the most important to our users, our customers. So none of that, that would be something that I'd have to provide context to Copilot to be able to get back. And even then, it's still kind of it's not that great, because it's still not human. So it's not going to understand things. It's not going to be oh, well, make sure you consider this edge case, because it's not got an innovation brain. It's really just, it's working off of data that already exists. And it can't create anything new. Well, I've seen the art, but even that, it's just it's generated from other data points. So it's it can't innovate. It can't, it's it's limited at what already exists. It can't be greater than the sum of its parts. Ooh, that's a good one. Drop the mic. Okay, so yeah.
That is a good one.
Yeah, it cannot be greater than the sum of its parts. So, but a human can. A human can see things and interpret it in a different way and grow from it and innovate from it. So, yeah, yeah, I don't know. Don't even worry about it. Don't worry about the AI. Don't worry about it. Bring it in, embrace it, love it, adopt it.
So a phrase I like to use a lot is that software engineering is the art of creating value for our users, sometimes by writing code. And I think that kind of echoes what you're saying there. Is you spend 25% of your day writing code, the remaining 75% is that human connection that allows you, so that when you write that code, it's the right code that you're spending 25% of your time on. It's like there's an old example of knowledge where there's this big machine in a factory that one day stops working, and so the factory owner calls up an engineer, and this old engineer comes around, just wanders around the factory, listens, grabs a hammer, smacks the machine with a hammer, machine starts up, walks off, sends a bill for $1,000 to the factory owner, and the factory owner calls this engineer up. I'm not paying $1,000. You just hit it with a hammer. Send me a better bill. New bill comes through. Hitting machine with hammer, $10. Knowing exactly where to hit the machine with a hammer, $990. Yes. And it's that idea, it's that because we have this community of humans that are working together on knowing what it is we want to build, and when we come to grab that AI hammer and hit the machine with it, we can use that in the most effective way because we've established what it is that we want to do first through that human connection. And then, as you say, AI can't innovate like that. AI can't bring that together. AI is very, very good at looking across vast swathes of data, bringing that data together and reasoning across that data, whether that's giving you information based off code that it's got access to, or like pieces, for example, it can access everything you're doing on your machine, and you can ask it questions like, oh, I got an email and a chat message and documentation, how do they come together? It can kind of bring all those different disparate pieces together, but it can't innovate in the way that we as humans can look at, oh, here's something I need to build into Netflix because this feels like a way that people can connect. I guess thinking about the whole kind of online viewing type idea, during COVID, when Apple released this idea of SharePlay, and that you can watch a movie together with someone else, and AI was very unlikely to have looked at this idea that we are now disconnected humans. Connection is very important to us. So through the medium of television, is there a way we can connect people by bringing in a shared experience? AI can help the engineers write the code to do that, but it cannot come up with this knowledge of people and the world and suggest that this is a cool thing to build.
Exactly. 100%. So yeah. At the end of the day, humans need to be there. And the only reason why things are valuable is because a human determined that it's valuable and useful. Because I know there's a lot of folks who, not a lot, but I've seen folks who are hesitant about or just kind of like angry, shaking their fists at the state of interviewing right now, because they're like, oh, people are just interviewing and just using chat GTP for the interview. But I'm like, why is your interview process only about the code? Like, why are you not talking about like soft skills and stuff like that? Like, I don't know how you wouldn't realize that. I mean, not that I don't know how it wouldn't happen, but like there should be a human part of this as well. It shouldn't just be an assessment of that. And also, I don't know, sometimes AI does not come up with the best, cleanest code either. So yeah, that's just kind of on the interviewer to realize like, hey, this looks like it's not that great. Like I feel like even teachers can tell when students have written papers that were written by AI. I can tell when I get an email that's written by AI. Like it's not that great yet.
You say that. So for my kids' fourth grade science fair, they're in sixth grade now, but for their fourth grade science fair, they decided to actually put that to the test. So they got a number of fourth grade essays from kids at the school. They then got ChatGPT, and this was like 2 years ago, to generate fourth grade level essays. They then took these to some teachers who'd not seen the essays from the kids and said, right, which ones of these, like 5 or 6 different essays, which ones are AI generated, which ones are generated by kids? And 75% of teachers got it wrong.
Wow.
They were unable to successfully tell which ones were there. Now, obviously, this is 2 years ago. So in that time, the human's knowledge of AI and what to spot has gone up, but also the AI's ability to respond has gone up as well. So, yes, we say we can do this, but I mean, a colleague of mine posted a blog post I wrote on Reddit, and then the blog post got deleted and they got kicked off the Reddit because they posted AI generated content. I'm not an AI,
Wow.
So Yeah, we like to think we
Okay.
can tell,
Yeah.
but the data I've seen says that often
That
we
is
can't.
interesting.
I mean, I was seeing a thing the other day where ways to spot AI generated content, and like number 2 was M
Uh-huh.
dashes. It's like the blog posts I write have M dashes because I have a copywriter who goes through and changes them all to M dashes. So, it's not AI, it's Hannah in the back actually updating them all.
Oh, that is
So
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I stand corrected then. I mean, it's and yeah, AI it is getting pretty advanced. I didn't realize it was that great. This kind of opens up a new level of like, ooh, there's a lot of stuff that I can do now. But still my original point still stands that there should be a human aspect of it. And AI is an amazing tool for getting your stuff to the next level. Like I could use basic vanilla JavaScript if I wanted to, and it's still just as functional and great. Or I could use React, and React is as it's just a JavaScript framework, and it helps me to get to where I want to be a lot faster. So I just think of it as more of like a scaffolding tool. AI.
yeah, it's just another abstraction. We used to actually have to write assembly
Oh,
code with punch cards, and then we had the lower level languages and the higher level
yep.
languages and the RAD tools, the rapid application development tools, like the Visual Basics. Then we have every few years we add another layer on top, another layer of abstraction that means the amount of software we can build just grows and grows and grows. And so Microsoft said every company is now a software company, so we have to generate more
Yeah.
software, and which means we need more people, and these people need to be more productive by using AI to be more productive, and then having large organizations focus on productivity as well. So you have this combination of AI and humans to help me be more productive, so I'm free to innovate. It's all that coming together in that Shaundai's hierarchy of needs to that
Totally
innovation
gonna write
level
it. I'm
up
gonna write
top.
a blog post on this. This is great.
Yes. Awesome. I think this is a great point to wrap up. We've been chatting for a long time. This was
Okay,
absolutely
great.
fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time here. I'll make sure I will put all the links to your talks, your socials in the show notes. And yes, if you can get that blog post done, I'll put a link to Shaundai's Hierarchy of Needs in this as well. So thank you very much for your time. Great having you with us.
Thank you so much. This was amazing. Great conversation.